And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this group in the first place, is we knew there were a lot of like-minded individuals out there, and just giving us more things to do, more time together, a little bit more about sharing our interest, teaching, not only creatively inspiring each other, but sometimes you get a little technique stuff from other people that you should get to know too. So it's definitely provides an impact, I think, on your creative outlook and output. It's just good. It's really good. Yeah. So I'm glad that we have another year to celebrate. And so we basically are going to talk to a couple of new people that are in our group that have added on since this year and haven't had a chance to show yet. And then I have a little slideshow of some of the things, the field trips that we went on that I haven't had a chance to post yet, so that you can look back at and see some of the fun stuff. And there's a lot of the members' artwork as well on the slideshow. So it's kind of fun. So it's not going to be a super long day. And I do know that Hanukkah is starting tomorrow. So we're going to try not to take too much time. I didn't really realize it started at sunset today. I was thinking, because my calendar said tomorrow, I thought it was sunset tomorrow. So anyway, so hopefully we're not losing a whole lot of people due to that, but happy Hanukkah. And Penny, awesome. I love photographing your piece for the show. So that was good too. Yeah, I got to interface with everybody's work for building book that's submitted. So that I did a lot of photos, and that gallery will be up posted soon. So you'll be able to take those pictures as well and have those. And then I'm going to drive them all up to Portland and visit with Annie and drop them off. Her and her students are going to do the installation, and the show opens on January the 19th. There's going to be some online and some in-person stuff there as well. So that'll be fun. Yeah. Good to see you, Penny. If you have to cut out, that's okay. We get it.
Well, hopefully not, but we'll see.
Okay.
Thanks.
No worries. No worries. We're going to give people a chance to show up a little bit here and just chat. Who has some fun news to share before we get started with presenting some stuff? Hi, Arlene.
Hello.
She's a new member as well. This is Arlene Abramson. You want to say hi?
Hi. I also don't know if I'll be able to stay the whole time because of Hanukkah.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll see how long I can. Yeah.
Next year we'll try to be better about our scheduling.
I actually have to go deliver some presents. So
no worries. You got to come by my place at some point too, because I have I had mentioned to the group before about the Quarantine Public Library, which is an open source zine library of over 200 zines.
Wait a minute, where? Say again.
It's called the Quarantine Public Library, and I don't recall if it's .com or .org.
oh,
But it's an online resource of two women who came together and invited people to submit zines. And Arlene and I are zine buddies in a big way.
Yeah.
So we hang out and have coffee and tea and whatever, and just do a whole lot of zine folding. And so she's got some serious folding to catch up on, because there's 200 in this set.
wow.
I made 2 copies. So
Yeah, well,
because she's my zine buddy.
When
Yeah,
you're ready,
so-
I'll come over. When
Yeah.
when
It'll be
things
fun.
quiet down. When things quiet
I don't
down.
think we'll be able to do it all in one session, but
Mm.
anyway, so it should be a fun project for, the cold winter. Lots of folding. And I don't know if you had a chance to see this year's zine assortment from our group, but we do have a really fun YouTube video with most of the people that were in it actually attended. So we have a lot of conversation from individual people about exactly what they did. And that turned out to be a really fun, a little bit more interactive than some of them, because there were so many, and it was just kind of, it was good. It was a good chat. Yeah. Who else has some interesting holiday news? I know Gail, you got a shout out in the newsletter today. Not Gail Hansen.
Oh,
Wrong Gail, not Gail Hansen. Is that a wet cyanotype process? What tell us a little bit about your image that we shared. We were talking, we sent a little notice about your Needham show that you have going on through January the 2nd with an image of what looks like some kind of cyanotype.
It's what's known as a wet cyanotype. And what that means is, I think everybody understands the basic cyanotype, where you put the cyanotype solution on, on a piece of paper, you put a leaf on it, you stick it in the sun, and you get a white leaf and a blue background.
Yeah.
And so this you rinse it off. This we add all kinds of kitchen chemicals, like you can start spraying vinegar and salt and Windex and, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Where
put a
did you
whole-
learn about this? Was it at Shepherd and Mosley?
Yeah,
So Rebecca is also
yeah.
Lord
This-
Garnier.
Yeah, this person's name is Suzanne Mosley, and she also teaches it up at Snow Farm. And so you do all that stuff to it, and you put it out in the sun and everything, and you rinse it off, and you have some image, and it's sort of weird looking and everything else, but it's cool. And then you you can dip it in bleach, or you could take a fairly strong bleach and mark it, and then rinse
Huh.
that off again, because that starts to bleach it out. And then you can dip it in like black tea solution or green tea or something like that to change its color, to make it, and you can just do a lot with it if you start off with the right paper.
Yeah.
We use a very heavyweight BFK Reeves, which can be, wet thousands of times without surrendering.
Cool. That's a good word.
Because
That's the word right there. Same with marbling, with the marbling solution and going through all the stages, you have to have a paper that's going to hold up. But super cool, very unusual for you, a little bit different looking imagery for you. And I like it. I like this new direction.
the other thing that was kind of good about it is, like, I didn't have to go and have it framed. I bought one of those box frames, and I put it on with nori paste and put a little Duro wax over it to, give it a little bit of a.
I dig that Duro wax. I've been adding it to things lately too.
Yeah. So that was, that's a fun process.
That's a really unusual process. Sarah Ringler, who is another one of our members, showed in one of her show and tells, she showed a bunch of her work that was wet process. And then she held up a few things to kind of show us some of the stages. And it didn't give me as much of a sensation of like, how is it really different other than being wet versus dry? Because I've done some cyanotyping in the dry version. And what you told us kind of makes more sense to me with this idea of spraying and messing with it.
You would personally go nuts with it, because you could put.
I might need to take a class there.
Um,
Snow Farm is not that far, and Calgon take me away,
I will send you the dates where she's going to be teaching it again.
I have a bunch of interesting old negatives of nudes of women in decathlon poses, because I kind of got the idea that like dudes and the sculpture posing, of all like the Roman Greco-Roman sculpture is mostly men doing these athletic things. And I thought, women could do them better. So why not?
Yeah.
So I have some good content to play with.
Yeah, I don't, in the wet cyanotype process, we don't use a light box like we do when we do.
So you just go outside?
Yeah, because whenever we do photographs on site in any kind of cyanotype, we're really using, a light box. And so I don't know how.
And how would the wet work with an actual negative? Yeah.
Yeah, I do not know. You know what I have used a little bit that was interesting is just a plain piece of, like acetate of some sort. And where I've taken like an opaque black marker.
Yeah.
And so you get a really good opaque image. I could build it on, it's opaque enough that I could burn it onto a silk screen if I wanted to. So I just cut some of those out, and I get some reaction for an image for that when I
So it's really about how you're like layering images, kind of ideas, and morphing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think a straight photograph is going to work for this, straight photographic negative. You're not going to get what you want in this process.
Well, sounds interesting, and I loved hearing about it. And I think we should pursue it.
Could,
as an
could I?
idea.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I thought you were going to ask if there are any other, because I did have two pieces in a
Great.
show up here.
Where's
through
up here?
Okay, so I'm part of Mid-Coast Maine Book Arts in Maine, which is located in Rockport, not Rockland,
Okay.
Rockport, but the show is up here in Blue Hill. And so I have 2 pieces in that, which is very nice. It's been a very well-received show. It's
How
been
long is
very
that show going on?
till the end of this month. It's been up for a whole month. So we actually it's going to be up for 2 months, till the end of December.
Into December, so people do have some time. Why don't you kick me the information and I might do a news amendum and send
Oh,
out
sure.
another, because I didn't get a chance to put everything I wanted to put into the newsletter because it was just too time consuming. So kick that to
Okay.
me, and somebody, at least some people, we have a pretty big mailing list and we do have a lot of members in that area. So who knows?
Okay,
We
and
might
the-
get
and
some
the,
people to go to it and get excited for you.
And I think you can, yes, and you should be able to access the online catalog at least. So I'll make sure you get that link too.
Great, just kick that to Christina at hajosiarts.com. Or you can do it to the info@newenglandbookartist.org. Either way,
Wait a minute.
it'll still get to me.
Christina at hajosiarts.com.
Yeah, and there's no H in Christina because I'm clearly not Christ-like. Yeah,
Okay, Christina
sorry.
at
When I was a little kid,
Hajosiarts.
my parents would get really mad at me when I said that, and then I would be like, "But I'm not a Christian," and then they would just totally lose it because even though we didn't really go to church, I think in their minds we were Christian, but like I was totally agnostic even at like 5 years old. Yeah,
Got it. I'll do
yeah.
that.
So you should be able to find me pretty easy.
Yep. Yep.
Anybody
Do
who
that.
wants to share great news, we do have traction with our Instagram, Facebook, our newsletter, and if I can get caught up on our posts one day online, we'll have even more there too. But there is an archive and it does get out there. So I think it's important for us. That's the whole point of us, not just to have fun and get to know each other, but to help each other promote ourselves. Even though NEBA is nonprofit, we still want to try to help each other do better. And that includes teaching opportunities as well. So
I
don't
have a
forget-
couple of, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I have a couple of bits of possible news.
Oh, super. Yeah.
Susan Marsh and Dennis Dale and I happened to find ourselves together in a talk that was given by this brilliant book artist by the name of Suzanne Moore. And she was talking about her book on infinity, and it was exquisite. And her husband was there. He's the bookbinder. He's also brilliant. And so we had a really good conversation. And also there was the curator of rare books, John Buchtel. And I had met him before a few years ago through another bibliophile organization of which I'm part. And I had asked him at that point if he might be interested in a NEBA show if, we somehow played off of a piece or several pieces from his collection. And he said, yes, absolutely. So I saw him again and he said that, yes, that he would be interested. So, it might be something that NEBA would want to pursue. I think that
I think
NEBA
Susan is pursuing it, and we just don't have any kind of date on not only him choreographing another tour and giving us like a really good show. I know there's an exhibit there that's book related that's up and through like the end of January or maybe even February.
Is that the Athenaeum?
yeah.
Yes, the Boston Athenaeum.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of these balls in the air. I didn't put it in the newsletter yet because we don't have it firmed up, but that's this idea of me hitting us with another newsletter. And I was so excited to hear that I was waiting listed. So I
I
couldn't
know,
get
that's
into
what she
that or I
said.
would have gone.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what she said. Did I mention the conversation that I had with the curator of rare books at the Boston Public Library?
No, what was
right.
that? When was that?
So I gave Susan the information. She took
I
pictures.
haven't heard of this one. Yeah.
So they just reopened after a major restoration of
Yeah.
all of their rare book area, and it's phenomenal. And so I talked to him because one of the things he said is that their collection is open to the public. So that means that if we wanted to see a 12th century manuscript and handle it with our own hands
I mean,
as
we have to like reserve it, obviously, and tell
we would-
them
of
ahead
course,
time,
we would have
right?
to
Yeah.
reserve it, but we can actually pick it up, hold it, study it, turn the pages.
We need to get our asses there, man. When can we do this? How about shoot
well-
for February? Because we have a bunch of people interested in, I think we got a Wellesley visit underway.
Yeah,
Too, that like Sally Chapman's head of, she's trying to figure out like the time, and it would be at the end of January.
mhm.
I think February. Marie, can I put you in charge of the Boston Public Library visit for sometime in February, maybe?
Yeah, I'll follow up with him. But the other thing that I asked him is, again, mentioning NEBA, if we tapped into a piece in their collection, like I'm thinking we could select one of their
During that
books
visit, pick one. Yeah.
and do a riff on that. Could we have a show there? And he was very interested. So I think those two contacts could be fruitful for us. So yeah, I'll follow up with Jay, sure.
Great.
And I know Susan is following up with John at the
Yeah,
at the-
she told me that. I know she's doing some traveling. She's heading down to I just drew a blank. We're Tampa, Florida, to hang with Judy, our elder, our NEBA elder. She's the eldest of our NEBA members at almost 91. Hilarious, wonderful, absolutely brilliant bookmaker. Love her. So anyway, so Susan's heading that way. So she's gonna be probably not with us. Yeah.
All right.
I was glad that neither of them were here, because I was gonna do at the very end, I was gonna show you my my newest Virginian creation, which is a needle book for housing your needles. And she got two of them, one for her and one for Judy. And I didn't want to like spoil like Judy getting to see it.
Can you show it to us now?
It's in the other room. Why don't we get some of the presentations underway? I think Retta, you got another comment here?
What, another quick announcement,
sure.
which is that, again, I'll send you the connection, where there's a book arts and printmaking workshop that's going to be in France at the end of February, which is organized through Main Media Workshop.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we listed their list, some of the listings. We have members that teach there, so we do.
Yes, and Rich.
Yeah,
and
we do
Richard
have
is
interaction with them.
And Richard is a book artist, so he's going to be the teacher. So I will send you the link to
Oh
that.
yeah,
as well. So
super.
it's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be fun. It's going to be beautiful.
That sounds like it would be really fun, especially in February, to get the hell out of here. Fantastic. Okay. Without further, all right. So let's hear a little bit from you. It's been a little while. How many months? Maybe four months?
I guess I joined back in the summer.
Yeah.
I've been taking workshops with Christina for the last year or so. And the way I got started was back in February of 2020, I retired. I'd been a tech writer for many years. And then within a month, everything shut down. So I had nowhere to go and nothing to do. And I started taking art classes with Adria Arch out of Concord Art. And it was printmaking and painting and drawing and collage. And at one point she had us do a couple of artist books, and I'd never done one before. And I just loved it. I loved both of them. And the content was so much fun and so rewarding to get the content, but I had absolutely no skills as bookmaking. So my books were sort of non-functional and they didn't open correctly or close, and the pages were crooked and everything. So I realized I needed to start taking some classes and learning how to make books. And that's sort of where now I'm here. I feel like I'm at the end of my initial phase of learning the skill set of just being able to make books. And now I realize I don't have to take a workshop every time. I can go find a book that has bookbinding techniques, or I can go out on YouTube and I can make it work myself. So I think now I'm sort of ready to launch out into more
You got your confidence with those first few classes, and now you're ready to take off. I noticed that you were picking up speed. You're getting more and more efficient in how you were doing in classes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm ready to start doing some purposeful projects now, not just I have content lying around and I can bind it into a book. So I don't feel like my examples are particularly earth-shattering, but I had a lot of fun doing them, and each one was a stepping stone to the next one. So if I could share my screen, I
I'm
put
gonna
some
do
stuff.
that.
Yeah, I think it's probably kind of daunting to try to make a book and generate the content. And I happen to have a lot of content lying around. And there's something kind of elevating about taking something that a series of prints or collages or paintings, or whatever, that are just stacked somewhere or in a folder, and put a cover on them, and all of a sudden they're kind of meaningful and important, and you can take them out and hand them around and look at them. So this was the first artist book from one of Adria's classes, and we just had to take a poem. So I picked The Land of Nod from Robert Louis Stevenson, which is part of A Child's Garden of Verses. And I grew up with these poems, and this one blew me away because I had no conception of how scary and realistic a poem it is. It's about a child learning to just explore their own personal dream world, and all the highs and lows and the scarinesses and the wonderfulnesses. And it just had a lot of really interesting content. So and the pictures are all cut up and collaged jelly prints. So it's really pretty straightforward. It's just the poem. I'm trying to get rid of, can you see the faces, the windows, the gallery? Because
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it out of my way and it's not going out of my way, but then I lose my arrow. Okay. So it's basically the poem and then the collages. And they get scarier and scarier. And then I just picked this one to close in on. So this was just a lot of fun. It's a little accordion book with gray Arches paper or Canson paper, I don't remember what. And the next one, the assignment was to make an emo book, and it had to be something with really intense emotional content. So I picked.
So emo is emotional? Is that what emo is?
Yeah,
Okay.
I had to look it up. I was too old to
What,
have
do
ever
you
been
know
emo.
anything about the origin of people using that expression? I've never heard
It
that.
was like a style of music. It was sort of this post hardcore punk that came out of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
70s or
Huh.
80s or 80s or 90s or something. And it gradually became a lifestyle with,
Oh.
emo pants and emo, hair and all this. It's apparently often confused with goth. So this was all painted and collaged, and it was insomnia because it was in the middle of the shutdown, and I was having COVID-induced terrible insomnia. My husband was sick, and there was that on top of everything, and I was just going without sleep for months and months. And
Wow.
this book was quite cathartic to do the book, so I have a soft spot for the book. And it's just the words insomnia, and each page is collaged with lots of these wide open eyeballs and stuff, eyes you can't close in the middle of the night. I had a lot of fun with this one. And then I stuck these cool fabric things on the front and back. But this book doesn't open and it doesn't close, and the covers aren't aligned. And this is when I realized I gotta learn. I have to get a skill set here. So I started taking little bookmaking classes, little continuing ed and everything. And basically everyone in those classes, everyone makes the same book, except maybe in different colors. But then I took a class with Christina at LexArt, and it was books and boxes, box making. And this is a book, a box book. I do have unstable internet connection, so we've been having issues all week, my husband and I.
No
So
worries.
this was kind of Virginia Woolf based, and it has sections of text from Orlando, and I did different levels of stuff here. This background piece is something that Christina had in her stash. It was a marbled piece of cardboard box that I used for the inside. And it was just different levels and layers and things, but I thought the box came out great, and I was just really liberated by the idea of being able to make something that looked this pure and perfect and almost like biblical. So that was sort of a major step forward for me.
Yeah, I think you were the only person that didn't have a glue squirt.
I'm really neat. I'm really dexterous and I'm really neat. So I get good results. And this little guy was just a little accordion book. Just I cut up an old art poster of close-up parts of tulips, and it was just a little accordion book. And this was another one I made in one of Christina's classes. And it was, I really wanted to do a Japanese stab binding. And I had this stack of painted collages from one of Adria's classes, I think with 13 or 11 of them or something. And they were just the perfect size. And they were either orange or turquoise background. And then the second day of the workshop, Christina shows up with her book cloth stash, and there was this brilliant orange fake crocodile paper that was just perfect. And so I went with that for this book, but I loved the binding. It came out great. It was, I just love the engineering side of the bindings, the book binding. I like putting the boxes shapes together, and I like cutting it and getting it even and getting it square, and then letting loose with the color and the texture and the extras. And this one I just finished. Stephanie Stigliano did a class at Arlington Continuing Ed, and this was a dos. Is that how you pronounce it?
Do-si-do.
Do-si-do. This is a do-si-do book. So you open it, and then you get to the end, and then you flip it and you read some more, and then you flip it and you're back at the beginning. So this was the Anecdote of the Jar poem by Wallace Stevens. And it's just collages of cut up an old art book with lots of Greek vases and things, and then I cut and paste the text of the poem when you get to the end. So this was another cool binding I had never really seen before. And when you get to the end, you flip it. This is like the second cover, the back cover, and you flip it and you're back to the beginning again. So each binding, which I'm sure I'm not telling you guys anything you don't already know, but each binding just gives me ideas. As the content is sort of connected to the binding, and the binding directs the content, and it's a real partnership. So I'm having a lot of fun learning new bindings and playing with the content. So this is sort of my latest piece. This was for the building
books.
Building books, the exhibit up at University of Southern Maine. And I wanted to have a book that you would show the cover and would also show the inside. And I couldn't think of any way to do that, because once you open the cover, then you can't see the cover anymore. So I found this in one of my books. I found this, it's like 100 bookbinding techniques. And this was called a reverse, I don't remember what it's called, back-to-back accordion book. So it's got two covers, and it's got this cool connective page construction. So it's freestanding, and you can do the covers and the insides all at once. And for the theme of the book is I have a collection of custom jewelry, of Buddha themed custom jewelry that I've been collecting for years. And I've always wanted to do something with it. And I had been considering doing something with the actual pieces of jewelry themselves. It's sort of a fabric based piece. But this just was even better, because I don't really want to part with any of the pieces yet. So the structure is kind of cool. You wind up with this really strong freestanding. I did use fairly thick cardstock here, just because I wanted to make sure that there wouldn't be any pressure being put on the pages.
It's extremely posable.
Yeah.
I photographed in a whole lot of different ways
Yeah.
for us to have for the catalog. Yeah.
So the way I did the illustrations is I took photographs of the pieces against sort of antique silk, and then laser printed them, and then did an acetone transfer onto the paper that I used for the pages. And you get this effect with the burnishing, which is really nice, it's almost sketch-like. So I think there's a lot of possibilities with this technique.
Use acetone?
Yeah,
Have you tried wintergreen oil?
no,
There's another one too that's called Citrusol. It's actually a orange oil cleaning product that's sold at like organic places like Whole Foods. Citrusol. It's
yeah,
in
I've got some of that. I've seen that mentioned as far as glopping up old National Geographics to just make
yeah.
printing paper, but
Some of these
I don't know
products
if it'll
work
transfer
better
an
on
image.
different types of images. Yeah.
Yeah,
Blender pen 00.
yeah, but I can use them up in 5 minutes. And the nice
Yeah,
thing about the
they
acetone is
go away in a
if there's a
hurry.
lot of it, goes a long way.
Yeah.
And the smell doesn't bother me like it apparently bothers.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
so I feel like now I've got the skills to make a book that's square and well engineered, and I'm moving away from just finding stuff around the house that I can put on pages and make into a book. And I've got a couple of projects that I'm going for now that are more purposive, and specific and personal. So I think I'm sort of like graduated to the next level. So I'm just thrilled. It's great to have something new to come along like this and have it hit so many buttons. And I love the group. And I'm really glad to find such a sort of young and active and energetic group.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. And I've enjoyed getting to know you. We've had a few art play dates and some classes, but we're going to continue. Let's see. Let's open it up to questions. Who has some questions? Let's see if there's anything in the chat. I was so busy listening that I didn't see.
I'm gonna see if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good. All right, you can hear me now. So that's good. I just want to say that I think your stuff is beautiful, and it's exciting to see someone also, another person who's kind of new to this, and how you're seeking out classes and finding projects, and that's sort of where I am too. So I'm glad to see your work.
Great. Maybe we'll wind up in the same class someday.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have everybody here. Let's see. One more round of, does anybody else want to say anything before we kick off with Andrea here?
Well, I just want to say that the books are beautiful and you've come a long way so quickly, and they're really interesting. Gosh, I love the jewelry. That's brilliant. So they
Yeah,
I
just
like the way it rendered in the image transfer too.
I
think that was
really like
nice.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Like-
beautiful.
The one that was the back-to-back accordion book,
Yep.
I thought that was particularly stunning and good for you. I echo what Carolyn just said. Good for you for taking initiative and learning different techniques. I think you have a lot of imagination, and I'm really looking forward to seeing, your work in the future.
Me too.
Okay. Tell us your tale.
All right. My first exploration of books sort of started out of, I was a big journaler and diarist, just writing. And in 2017, my husband got sick with cancer, and I found that I couldn't really write anymore. So I sort of turned to collaging and more art kind of journaling. And just through YouTube, I picked up, I started making books. I was also a librarian. I worked in Wayland Library. So I'd get books off there when they decommission them. I'd sort of take them and kind of like, here, take a book cover and then just add my own pages, and started doing sort of like collage work in there, making paper, just choosing a lot of different things and doing collages, as opposed, there would be some text, some things I'd write, sticking in, when sticking in tickets and memories and goodness, things, the hospital, we were in the hospital all the time, hospital tags and bracelets, things like that. So that's sort of where I started. And I actually put, I had a folder on my computer like that of things. He was given a very bad diagnosis, so he knew it was only a matter of time. And I would have this folder that, possibly things I could do after he passed that, sort of like would give me some direction. And one of them was Penland School in North
Yes.
Carolina.
Yes.
And so I actually went down there my husband ended up passing in December of 2020. And in July of that year, I went down for a book set to, learn bookmaking and paper making. And I set myself a project to make a memory book for him. And I made paper out of some of his clothes, and
Oh, that's wonderful.
and here I'll show that it has a Coptic binding. I mean, I kind of learned these different techniques. So this is paper that actually incorporates like a linen skirt of mine and cotton t-shirt of his. And throughout the book, it incorporates like paper I made from his shirts and words that were from his memorial service. And he was also a beautiful photographer. So it incorporates, it alternates the paper I made in like words from his burial and then his photographs through the book. And I think it
How
was
is the text added?
excuse me?
How was the text added?
It just printed on the
Yeah.
page before they were put in
Okay.
the book.
That's lovely. What
yeah,
what an amazing idea. Yeah.
I think it was, it was sort of, I think there were about 10 people in that class. And I think everyone was kind of moved by the project. It was emotional and, but it gave me a really good direction. Another thing I did was, this was another book where I had gotten, I'd gone into a used bookstore and I said, well, I want to buy the books you can't sell. I want, it's like things that were falling apart. So this was like beautiful covers from an old book. And it actually, like so much of, I was trying to remember, I've also moved since my husband passed. So this was like an extra piece of wallpaper. This burgundy was from our house. So I used that as like book cloth. And this book used all different kinds of pages. And what I did was I glued into, or I put on all the cards I had gotten after he passed, and just the pages include like old books, music pages, paper I dyed like with beet juice, or I just kind of found pages that were beautiful, and then I would kind of put cards that sort of match the different pages. I think you might be able to see that better. I think I included some pictures that might show up better. Okay, so that shows the book, and you can see at the top some of the pages with his photographs on it, and the variety of, I had a gray t-shirt of his, a green and a blue, and I graduated adding pulp so that the papers graduated in color.
Fantastic. So all of the paper making and the binding occurred at Penland?
Yeah, it was a 2-week class.
Awesome. That must have been really wonderful for not only you, but for the other people to experience you doing this as well.
Yeah,
Did they have as personal a projects as yours?
no, then no,
Yeah.
mine kind of was a big deal. It was,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a real gift for the instructor and the other students that you got to do that and share
Yes.
it with them. Yeah.
The instructor was from Louisiana, and he was a real storyteller. And when the papers were done, and he asked me to hold them, and he took a picture, and I'm like, I'm going to become one of your stories now, I said to him, and he said, yes, you're right.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, it was nice.
Oh my goodness.
So that's kind of what I held up before, just one of the kind of, one of the books I was using to do sort of diary art. And that just, it's just an old book cover from where when I used to work, and they would decommission books and just made a new binding.
I'm not sure if these are in order. They don't look like they're in order. I think we're gonna go
That's
back.
fine. Okay, so
Is this-
that's inside the book I just showed you. That's it just kind of shows the variety of papers I use. Some is like, papers you get from a book from Joanne Fabric, but the page that's right there is just a paper I dyed with beet juice, and I put on some flowers and stuff, and that made the variety of color there.
Yeah.
Again, just using different kinds of pages. Some of that paper I had made at Penland, something that was sent in the mail to me, maps, just sort of showing the different pages before I do collaging on them. And I think the next one will show, so that's taking the pages and then adding, diary entry, different kind of things onto the pages. That's what they tend to look like after I've used the book.
Here is this one. Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
So that's the book that contains the cards from after my husband died. So that's just a better picture of
I
it.
like the raw elements of the actual book board that's behind, in addition to the like fancier stuff. I think that mix of the two is really unusual. Yeah, I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. So that's like, so you can sort of see the variety of pages in the book. We're from, I live in Boston now, and I love going to those. There's a bookstore downtown in some little alley where they always have like books for $1 out on the street. And I mean, they're just some beautiful books there, art books and I kind of take them apart and reuse the pages, and that painted bunting card just, I would say it sings on that page,
Yeah. And you can still read all these cards, correct?
Yeah, you can open
Yeah.
the cards up.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
The back of the card would be attached to the page, and then you could
Yeah.
open the card and read them. Some things are pockets, if it's a card that I'd want to read the back of, perhaps I'd instead put it in a pocket or something like that to be able to pull it out.
I like the chunkiness of that book. And I like the roughness of like the fact that you're letting things spill out of the base of the book, and it's uneven and just like not as precision oriented. It's nice to have like chunkiness and tactile kind of, it really does say artist book to me instead of just book, which I think is kind of the point. Yeah. It's really nice. I like it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So, so far that's sort of been, my book have mostly been for myself, memory type things, kind of journaling. I do make some books and give them as gifts to people, but, that's where I am, and I'm kind of trying to move forward and perhaps do some more, just for the sake of art or creativity, and move a little bit away from all the difficult memory work.
Right. So the idea of book arts as therapy is something a lot of our members do. You'll really see a lot of that. And I think that if you move away too quickly from the pain and the trying to express that and go just with some fun, colorful, crazy, and just explore, that could be fun, but you might find that the real meat and potatoes, so to speak, of it all might still reside in the personal therapy kind of component. And not only will it help you, but it's really powerfully moving. And I think people, just like a novel that you write about your own story, there's universalism in the humanitarian kind of experience that that you are, as a human, and other people are interested in it. Definitely. So I,
Andrea,
not that I
I,
want you to sit there and like wallow necessarily in like the morning, but I do think that there could be powerful content there.
Mm.
I have an
Right.
observation, Andrea, about your work. And I think that your idea of making a paper with your husband's clothing and your clothing combined, I think that is so powerful. My soulmate of 40 years passed away after a lifelong illness. And I have her writings, her handwritten, journals and the like. But I didn't keep any of her clothes, and now I'm kicking myself that I didn't, because that would have been a really good project. I just think that that was a brilliant idea, and I'm sorry for your loss, but thank you for showing us that work.
My daughter is a fashion design student, and she has actually made a beautiful quilt for me from all his like work shirts. So, all the different, you can imagine, they're striped or the blue and yeah, I'm lucky to have a lot of kind of tactile things to keep his memory. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't think I've ever heard of anybody mixing clothes like that. I think that's a new one. I mean, I have heard of people tearing up like a divorce decree and putting it into the shred, or something like that, like an actual document getting added to the pulp.
What was interesting, okay, so I'll just, it has a
There
really
is- oh.
interesting texture because like the blue shirt and the gray shirt I did after. The first one I did was the green shirt, and I guess I hadn't made the pieces of cotton small enough. So they sort of were clumping. So, and I had a linen skirt. So I was able to kind of put that together, and they combine in just a really amazing way. Yeah, it is. It's really, and it feels, the paper feels beautiful. It's really, it's I didn't know how it was going to work out, and it worked out way better than I anticipated.
There is the Veterans War Uniform Project, which somebody has been working with veterans. So they take their uniforms and cut them up and pound them into rags and then make paper out of them to help veterans deal with their post-traumatic stuff. I'm not sure who's running that, but it's national, I know.
So these guys are these veterans, well, they're probably not all guys, but these veterans are pounding it themselves, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I can see that as being very cathartic.
And then making paper from it, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Cool.
Okay. I hadn't heard of that. I'm gonna have to, I'll take a look into that. Fantastic. Excellent. Okay, other questions? Anybody have other questions for Andrea? That was powerful, Andrea. I thank you for sharing that. It can't be easy to talk about it, but it's important, I think, to talk about it.
Thank you.
Virtual hugs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one other, like he actually, we had a lot of time during COVID where it was just the two of us, friends would bring us food, we barely left the house except to go to the hospital. And I started doing this in COVID time. And I started out making pages with little cards for like how many people died in Massachusetts, how many people died in New York. And it was like on file cards almost. And, eventually it's pages and pages, but it's really interesting to look back and see I was keeping daily counts of the cases and deaths. And there was a book, there was an exhibit at the Athenaeum like a year and a half ago, and someone else had done something similar, a book on pages of like pasta cardboard where they documented the number of deaths and stuff each day. Was this group in that show, or that was the
No, I
New
don't.
England
We
Book
probably had
Party?
some presence in the show, but I don't think I saw that. I didn't see
Okay.
that particular piece. Lori Alpert did a piece that had a following of the number of deaths and days, not the deaths, but the days.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of different people did different variations, but I don't think anybody did what you're talking about. I don't, with the numbers of deaths exactly. I'm
Well,
not
it didn't start out that, it was
Yeah.
kind of just it was incorporated into the book I was working on. And then so
Yeah.
much of that book, I know like covers of the New Yorkers went in there. New Yorker had like the most amazing covers of, empty New York and all these kinds of poignant things. And I remember on the day of like the 100,000 deaths, the New York Times had all the deaths printed, and the artists, kind of comic artists did like spoofs of it where they had that with Trump golfing in front of it and stuff. And I know like things like that went into my book. So it's really, I have a book that's sort of very much a COVID history as well, which probably will be quite
Yeah.
amazing to look at in 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. Fascinating. Yeah, check out that quarantine public library that I was mentioning with the zine collection. That shows you over 200 people's what they were concentrating on during the quarantine. Everybody had their own little crazy situation to deal with. So I can't even imagine like facing the death of a spouse during that situation being on you too. I mean, that must have been weird for him to wonder about the state of humanity as he's exiting, right?
It gets even worse. He's an only child, and he and his father went into hospice the same week. So
Oh, wow.
I'm coming out of it, but it was
Yeah.
both his father passed and he passed 2 weeks later. So
Wow.
I was in the thick of it. So you can see why all my creativity and stuff flowed into dealing with
And
the,
I'm glad you had that to be able to be an outlet for you. It's helped me because I had similar, I haven't lost a spouse yet, but I've had a similar kind of crazy. And I think that the grief books that I've been doing have been very transformative for me. I guess it depends on your personality and whether or not you feel that you can put something in a book and get it out that way. Otherwise, some people might feel like it's not, you're not letting go of it by putting it in a book somehow. For me, I felt like I could let go of it by doing it. So I feel better after doing it. I don't feel like it made it worse. But I mean, I guess it's in your how you would personally handle it. Everybody's a little bit different. Fascinating. Totally fascinating. Okay, any more questions for Andrea before I kick into a fun a little bit of a look at some of the things that I haven't made posts about that we did this past year? And a lot of you, I think some of you folks that we haven't heard from might want to turn on their speakers because I think there's some of your artwork in this show because we did do some fun things. So in January, we went on a fun field trip up to Haverhill to the Museum of Printing. And they had Frank Romano, who runs this place, is one of our members as well. He had his 80th birthday. And so they had like a little bit of a to-do over that. So you'll see some images from that. But they had a show of printmakers. Frank, welcoming us in. So the show was called Connect. And it was the Boston printmakers. And we had a whole lot of members that were in this show. In addition to there being like a reception and some conversation, there was also a workshop that Rhoda Rosenberg led. Here's Gail. Gail was there, Gail Hansen. She's looking at one of the Gutenberg pop-up books in one of the cases. Great visit if you ever get a chance to get up there. We take field trips every so often when there's some kind of to-do. This is just some of the just me looking around, taking pictures. He's got a really amazing collection of all kinds of different ways for printmaking, printing for not only printmakers, but like actual publisher printing, like fancier stuff. And then we're into the show here. So the show was mainly down this one hallway, and it was pretty tight and the lighting wasn't so great. But this is Judy
Gravure.
Gravure en
Gravure.
français. This is Stephanie Stigliano's piece from the show. Margot, you want to tell us? Margot's with us. You want to talk to us a little bit about your work here?
It's just a lino cut, and it was a lot of fun to do. And again, that's a quarantine project as well.
Yeah. Kit Kat.
Mm.
Roberta Delaney, she is a member. I don't know if she's come to any of our meetings yet. I don't think I've actually met her yet. She's been with us since day one, and I haven't met her yet, so I'm not sure. Do any of you know Roberta? No.
Is that
Oh, that's
Roberta?
a beautiful piece.
Roberta, does it say Roberta Delaney?
It's Roberta Delaney. She lives in Sherburne.
She was, I had her when I attended Wheaton College for a year, and she was my teacher there. But I haven't seen her since then, and that was long time ago, the late 70s.
Wow. This is Rebecca Lorgarnier. She is one of the, I think it's Gail Hansen. Is she called the co-owner or co-founder, or how would you refer to her over at Shepherd and Mosley Studios in Newton? I don't know if she's still with us.
Yeah, no, I am. I was on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the co-owner,
Co-owner.
they
Okay.
started it, they started this particular place together.
Yeah, yeah. I love this one. It's got, if you were standing in front of it and could see it better, you would see that there's like a lot of depth and layering going on. It's not, like I said, it was hard to get good pictures. You could only stand back like 2 or 3 feet. It was a narrow hallway exhibition space, and they were on either side. So it was kind of an awkward space to get in. Screen printing with collage. Okay. This is Sarah Ringler. She's done a lot of interesting work with these repeating dark silhouetted shapes and dots. Her zine that she gave us for that first zine swap had some of these kind of figures in it too. Very powerful. Can you hear me? I don't know why these are backwards. This is Rhoda's piece. This is Lori Alpert's piece. Ronnie Komarov. Secret Life of Trees. And then this is the beginning of the workshop. Who is this friend of hers? Let me zoom in here for a second. Kai Ober. She is an executive board member of the Boston Printmakers. I think she was in the show too.
Yeah, Kai is a member of Full Tilt Studio too.
Oh, okay. I've heard of Full Tilt quite a bit. So this was a zine workshop, which is right up our alley. We love to do some zine making. And she's given us a little bit of a presentation of her own work and talking a little bit about the structure for different kinds of zines that you could make with all the supplies that she brought. Here's Marie giving her some moral support. Yeah, take it or leave it. That's a fun little zine. This is Gail joining in here. This is Rebecca on looking. She didn't make one though. She just hung out with us. It was good to see her though. This is some other larger scale works of hers that she's spent a good amount of time talking a little bit about her artwork before we got into the zine, actual zine making. That seems like a very determined Marie. Oh, Carolyn with her almost a violation with her mask there, slipping. This was in January, so this was still like absolutely you had to be quarantined, not quarantined, but COVID vaccinated and masked everywhere. And there were a couple of non-NEBA types there that I didn't get their names, but there were some other people participating. And I did get copies. We went and were able, after we made our zines, to go upstairs to the office front area of the printing, Museum of Printing, and get some copies of everybody's zines. So I ended up, you know, coming home with a few copies of everybody's. I made, this is, it's still ongoing. It's called Bedtime Stories. It's a weird zine that actually opens up and has pockets, and then I've Xeroxed different incarnations and then hand colored into the different incarnations. So you're seeing like different, and this was all done during the workshop. So this one's still ongoing. I still play with it some. Here's the group, a little nice shot of all the ladies holding up their zines. And then a couple with the other people that we didn't know. And then Marie and I decided we needed to go say happy birthday to Frank because it was his 80th. So we got a photo of us, you know, hanging out. Oh, I'm wearing the same vest today. And then he had this front window just totally covered with all of his birthday wishes. 80 years old, and he has published like 60 or 70 books. I can't even remember how many. This guy is serious business, and he is full on at 80. I hope I'm as engaged at 80 as this guy is. And then we had lunch at Taco Lupita. Yeah, so this was a fun field trip, and we didn't get a whole lot of people to come, but we did have a lot of fun that day and had a lot of good conversation and a lot of creativity with just having a little zine workshop there in addition to the opening and seeing the show. So it was kind of like a combo deal, which is kind of how we like to roll. We try to schedule, you know, some fun things around, and don't just go for the viewing, but also other things too, if we can. This was in February. We went to see the Guild of Bookworkers had a show at North Bennett Street. And it's just, again, me just coming into the building here. I took some pictures on the way, and this is in the North End in Boston. I mean, it wasn't too many of us that day, just Dennis Dahill and Susan Marsh and I, so it was pretty quiet, but cool, a cool thing. I thought this was, I don't know why, I take pictures of what I take pictures of, you know, but this is called Rules of the Road, and they had this posted in just about every single room of North Bennett Street. Follow instructions, keep us updated, stay informed, be a helpful human, keep alert, and take care of yourself. I just thought it was really interesting that they were, you know, thinking of it that way and putting it all over the building that way. I don't know, I just thought it was interesting. They had, you know, North Bennett Street has all these different departments that do all kinds of cool stuff. And one of the things that's nice about that is when you have a book show, you can ask the woodworking people to make you custom-made cabinetry to display your book show in. So look at this, really nicely done. All the display stuff was done by students. And this is a traveling show, so I think it's still going around. And actually the coffee table type book that they made to go with it is nice too, which is something I think we're going to try to do for building books as well, because it's going to travel. I just love myself. I just went nuts over, let me just jump forward. The creature. Look at this thing. It's like a little bug. It was like a little teeny bug, but in like fine leather binding, you know, like seriously complicated, but like, oh my goodness, that was one of my favorites. Let's go back over here. So leather binding and tooling, a much different animal than the kind of artist books that most of our members make, but really nicely done. And we have James Reed Cunningham, who's one of our members who teaches there regularly. And then a couple of, on occasion, you'll see a few people like maybe just once in a blue moon. I think Alice Sten may teach there every once in a blue moon, but she's mostly at Mass Art. Who else? Does Aaron Sweeney teach there occasionally, maybe? I'm not 100% sure. So most of the work in this is not of NEBA members. It's a Guild of Bookworkers, but some really nice stuff. These are possibly wet cyanotypes, but they could just be straight cyanotypes without any wet. I mean, the amount of tooling on some of these is just insane. This has a bunch of crocheting too. This is Aaron Fletcher's. Yeah. That's in all leather. That's every bit of that is leather. Wow. This was an interesting accordion that had two sides to it that were cool. And then it had these cutaways that you can only see depending on how you looked at it. That they pivoted. I thought that was a nice variation on an accordion. Yeah. A whole lot of hand stitching. I've been grooving on hand stitching through paper myself lately. Not to that extreme though. I like the hairy bits coming off of it more than the actual stitching myself, but for my work. But this is lovely. This Stephanie Wolf piece has been in another show that I saw recently too. I can't remember right now. Dark and Stormy. She does a whole lot of really nice virtual, especially with the Jaffe Center down in Florida. She's been doing a lot of virtual classes. I've been feeding them to the Facebook posts, you know, like sharing the posts when I get the post. They're usually sliding scale where you can just basically they have a bare minimum all the way up to like be nice to us and give us some money. So you can take a nice workshop with Stephanie for pretty easy money.
Yeah, and they're really, she's a wonderful teacher. And
Yeah, she is.
They're really quite bite-sized too. You know, they're
Yeah.
like.
It's always one technique I do. It's not like hitting you with the whole kitchen sink like I do sometimes.
Yeah.
I want to give too much in the workshops and people can get overwhelmed when you do that. I like the idea that the show has flat, frameable work as well as tons of books. Trying to find us venues where only books are shown is kind of problematic. They want you to have a mix, you know, so that you can get some wall hanging stuff. I think given how far afield book arts really is, because you get all the letterpress and you get in calligraphy and marbling and collage and paper making and printmaking, I think it shouldn't be that hard for us to maybe think about for some of these other show potentials, encouraging people to submit not only books, but some flat stuff or shadow box framing, you know, because it's causing us a problem to get shows. I've had some people say, well, can you guarantee me 50% on the walls? So, you know, again, it's finding the right venues for NEBA work. Yeah. Karen Hamner is also another person that's really interesting to me. I've been seeing her work out and about more and more. I love the idea of tanning. Like this comes more in my wheelhouse, being from a family of hunters, trappers, and anglers, or, you know, fishermen, if you want to say it that way. Skinning and doing weird stuff with animal parts is kind of part of my heritage, even though I don't want it to be. So I don't know if maybe incorporating some of those elements into something in the future might be interesting. Yeah, I mean, these fine pink lines and the words are in leather. Those are little teeny tiny pieces of leather. It's amazing to me. This guy too, this Todd Pattison, he's pretty cool too. I have some angles here to show you the depth at which this dude is marbling. These are like marbling imagery on the leather. So it's marble leather, and then he is marbling the ends of the block. So he's marbling along the text block itself. Pretty cool. Here's James. This is a NEBA member. That's some serious tooling too. I mean, all of those are different pieces of leather. And he's got, yeah, he's got his sides marbled as well, or it could be splatter painted. I'm not sure if that's an actual marble. I'm pretty sure that Todd Patterson's was. In the middle of the house, in the middle is Penny Halls. I don't know if she's still with us. Are you still with us, Penny? I don't think so. Okay. No Penny. I believe that she talked to us in this is Cabin Fever. I do believe she presented this in one of our show and tells. Did she, Carolyn?
Yes.
Carolyn's nodding. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah. This is an interesting book that's twisted and very strange, but it really works, and it closes down in a twisted way too. So it never gets flat. And here is the softbound version of this catalog that they put out, in case anybody wants to take a peek at it. Here is Marie being our lovely, I got her without the mask on for a shot, being our lovely table attendant at this past April's Book Arts Bazaar up in Portland at the University of Southern Maine. This is also happening again this year. In the newsletter, you'll see that the Book Arts Bazaar is on April the 2nd. I have got a table. NEBA has already got a table. I don't know if they have a limit on tables, but as you're going to see, I went around and took pictures of all the NEBA members. So we had a pretty big presence at this show, and I would imagine it will probably happen again. So this is Alice Stan's table, and her work, Love Thy Neighbor, was chosen to be the promo image for Building Books. She grooves on the house. Here she is. The house structure is a big part of her work, which made it a natural choice for me to pick her to be our image for the invitation. I love her illustrations. I love how she does handwriting for things. It's very personal. They're petite, they're intimate, very well made. These, I don't know if you can really see it from the angle, maybe the one that's laying the flattest in the foreground here. She cuts away a recessed window for these lounge chairs, these chaise lounges to tuck into, so that when you rub your hand across, everything's at the same level. So it's going to help that be well preserved over time. This is not for sale, but this is one of the pieces she did as part of her graduation portfolio when she graduated from, I believe she went to North Bennett Street, but I'm not 100% sure. This is completely insane. Oh my God. How much work do you think all these little compartments were? That toolbox is serious business. Carolyn Shattuck. She had some nice work on display too. She was right across from us. She's getting beamed by the lights off that wall, so that's not necessarily the greatest picture. This is giving you a little sense of some of her work that she does. Lots with endangered species. That's one fun one. I like that one. I saw her recently and she said that at the Boston Art Book Fair, she had people asking to buy the individual, like actually the individual license plates off of the piece instead of buying the piece. They just wanted to buy. No. Isn't that weird? I just was like, what? Yeah. They didn't want to buy the book. They just wanted to pick out a few of the license plates. People are nuts. Anyway, yeah, her work is lovely. Laura Bucklow. She was there as well. She was sharing a table with Francis. So we'll see a little bit of that. Lots of cyanotypes and gum prints and different objects here that are really cool, like book objects. And here's Francis Hamilton's work. They were sharing a table. So that is an option. It's only $45 for a table though, but if you have a buddy and you feel like you don't have as much work, that is a good option. A Lady's Guide to Europe. I didn't get a chance to look at that one. I wonder what her suggestions are. Slapping them when they start hitting on you. I was followed around at age 13 in Rome by these men on mopeds, and it got a little scary. The people in the tour bus were just like, get on this bus as quick as possible, because these crazy guys, they were just like catcalling everyone and like hounding us. It was really weird. Yeah. Here's me and my booth. Lots of some of the grief books that I was talking about and some odds and ends. Yeah. More cyanotypes. Cyanotypes are getting more and more popular. Get some zines. Oh, there's the glamour shot. You can tell that that's the one that I picked because I retouched myself. So I'm looking smooth. Smooth. And you can see the room is not really that big. So it's kind of key to maybe if you're going to have a booth to go ahead and put your money down on it, because it might be capped at a certain point, because I think it's going to be bigger than it was last year. Well, it was lovely to see everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
great holiday.
Thank you for
Thanks,
this.
Christina.
Nice meeting you all. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you in person.
Me too.